Hello. I want to talk about my traveling to Israel. I have been to Israel 3 times, and uh, I will be reminded of Israel because we are in the middle of February and 2022, and it's Purim feast in Israel now. So I remember I was in Purim once in Israel. But I start to talk about the first time I was to Israel, and I was very sick. My peak was in 2010. I have very much pain in my body and was weak and have a fight with depression, and I was in very bad condition. I had not got my medicine that I have today, so I be worse and worse and worse. But 2010 was the worst year, and then in 2011 I heard God talking to me, and he said that I should travel to Israel and visit Israel, and I was thinking it's impossible. I am in a wheelchair most of the time. I can walk, but I'm too weak. I have no strength, and all this. I had psoriasis that is in my joint. It's not only on the skin. I wake up in the mornings after a night of pain and screaming out in the night. I wake up in the mornings and my sheet was full of blood. I had a hole in my whole body, even up to in my face. That was most scary, to have it in my face. And when I go on the bus, travel with the bus, sometimes people walk away from me when they saw my skin. They be scared of it, and so it was very hard when God said I need to visit Israel, and when He say that, is to obey Him immediately, not wait, because then if you wait when you hear from God and you wait, that's kick in your own thinking that you can't do it and you have no money for that, and everything coming into your mind if you don't start immediately and prepare you for to visit Israel, for example, if God has said that to you. And I had no money, and I was thinking that I need to know Hebrew languages. I thought it was that. So the only thing I was thinking, it was that I need to go together with a group of people where there is leaders that can speak Hebrew. So I look at internet, and look at traveling Israel in a Swedish group, and suddenly it was there from maybe in 1 hour. I saw it, and it was a Swedish church group that I know about. They were like famous, so very known, and their leader, the pastor, main pastor, he had lived in Israel, so I was very sure that they will take care of me. But it was not where I lived. I live close to Copenhagen in Denmark, very close there, and they lived north of Stockholm, our capital city. So first I had to travel with a train. It's about 4 hours traveling with a train, and then I needed to have a hotel, and I find a hotel on the airport, so I had not far away from the airport where we should meet, and then but how to make those money? It was much money, and I didn't have that kind of money. But I signed me up to travel with them, and they say that, do you really have this kind of money? Because we have to pay the tickets for you before you pay in here, so you must be sure that you have the money. And I had to go with the faith. I had to have that kind of faith and knowledge about how God works. So I say that I have that money, and I didn't have it. And then it was my daughter's father. He was my friend in that time, and he said he should take care of my cat. I had a female cat and a male cat also, and he said he should take care of those cats and come and get them. And then suddenly I got money from the tax. I didn't know I had paid too much tax, and suddenly I got much money for after about 6 years after I had paid too much tax, and I don't know how you should never ask and search for it why it happened, because that's in God's way to do things. So it's only sad if you see that they have done something wrong, those that pay you money. So it's only to accept it and be happy for what you get, like supernatural blessing. So I understand today that if God tell you that you should do something in His will, then He help you to could do it. I know it now after 3 times in Israel without any money. So I know that if it's in God's will, you you can be sure that He make it come true, and you have to have that faith from the beginning. So and then they told me from the church that they couldn't book the hotel we should lay in Jerusalem. That hotel didn't had all rooms for those days, so they have to cut off one day from our traveling. We should travel in 7 days, be in Israel 7 days, and they have to cut it off one day. So suddenly it was much less money, and then they say that they change the route we should travel around them with, so it be more or less money. So suddenly I had all the money. I could pay that them for to travel with this group of people, and so I met them at the airport, and this was a Pentecostal church, Christian people that should be so very nice. But they were not nice to me. And they were like always is this, that they didn't talk to me. And but we traveled, and on the flight I come to sit with a pastor from that church, and he opened up a Bible, a new Bible. He wrapped it up. It was pretty new, and I asked him, is there any red text in your Bible? And he said, no, it was, all the words was the same. And I say that the Bible I have, it's a red text where Jesus is talking. And so that's so much easier to find where Jesus was talking, I said to him, and didn't know that it was something special why I talk about the red text. I didn't know what that it should come back to me in a special way. So I had the pain, and of course I didn't drink any alcohol. I didn't drink alcohol because of the psoriasis. So I had pain the whole way to Israel, and then when we come landing in Tel Aviv on the airport, then suddenly all my pain, all my illness was gone. I was healed as soon as we landing in Israel. But I was still weak. But all the pain and bleeding was gone. And then we installating us at the hotel, and those leaders of the church, they have the most fancy hotel, but I pay for the lowest cost hotel, as I didn't have so much money as they have. Uh, and so, but it was a fancy hotel I was in, and it was a Jewish hotel. So all it was in Sabbath. It was the electricity was not there in the hotel, but it was a little fake because the electricity in the big area in the hotel was it. So I saw that it's coming Jewish young people and eat. The hotel had a restaurant and they eat there in Sabbath. And I know it already that they real Orthodox Jewish, and this was Orthodox Jewish young man with girlfriends. They can't go away from their home in Sabbath. They have to only 6 meters from the house. But they fake in many of those Orthodox Jewish, so they let someone else be in their home instead of them, and they think that's okay. But God see everything, so he saw that, and God, where I go, God is with me and see what I see. And I saw those people going away and sitting and eating electricity with those big hats they have and electricity and everything. But the elevator, for example, it was like not really in electricity. It was manual done. So not many were in the elevator. They knew that, so they didn't go there. It took too long time to go with the elevator when it was handled manual, and it was a store to buy many expensive things in the hotel, and but I find out that the electricity, the cord, the input in the wall, it's the same as in Sweden. That's very nice for me. It's not American style or English style. It's like we have in Sweden, so I didn't need to have any extra tool with me to put in electricity in the wall. The first evening we didn't do much more than check out. We eat food in the evening and we walk around a little, a group of people. So I was around that area, and then when I should sleep, I was on the 4th floor like that, high up in the center of Jerusalem, and 2011 was it, and they have just built this local train, this subway train, just so it was in that week when I was staying in the hotel that they open up that line to go, but I never have traveled with it. it's very hard because it says in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, it says in Hebrew and in Russia, no English. So it's very hard to know where you're going. So I have never traveled with them. But I have traveled with bus. So before I go to bed, I was standing in the window and look out in Jerusalem, and I couldn't believe I was in Jerusalem. And it was dark, and it was much light outside, but I was very high over the street line on the ground. So, and when I should lay down in the bed, I saw a light in the air. And I know it didn't come from the outside because I was so high up, so no lights was there outside could come in the room. And then also it was standing furniture that hide the light. So the light come from nowhere, and it was red light, like what I was talking about with that pastor about the red text. And the red, it was a number, and it says 21. And I knew, like I do today with the spirit things, that I know already what it is. I knew it was in my Bible. The text, 21 text, should I read. So I counted those red text. And I'd be surprised when I come to 21. It was when Jesus, with this woman that have had bleeding for 12 years, she come to Jesus, and you know that it's, if you understand this, that a woman in that time, she couldn't go around the men. It was the man was first, and the women was far behind. They were not equal with the men. So what she did was very special. That she crawling on the ground to reach on this tassel that it's they have that in the clothes down to the ground. It's like prayer, different prayer in those tassel, those hanging there, and she was reaching for that one of the prayer that he had, and Jesus felt it, and she said that, and Jesus said that because of your faith you will be healed, he said to her. And that was like he was talking to me about my psoriasis. And it and then I fall to sleep, and next day we should travel, and I'm Swedish, and it's only we Swedish people and the Russia people and Chinese people. We were the only one that was walking. The American people, the tourist people in Israel, they go with the bus the whole way. But we were pilgrim walking. So we had a bus when traveled far away, but then they stop at the parking lot and then we have to walk. And it was very hard in the beginning for me. And people in the group, most people was around 30 years old. So they were good fit to could walk long distance. And they have to wait for me because I was weak and hard. And it's about over 90 degrees, 100 degrees when we're walking. So it was very hard for the body, even for young people. But we have much to drink, water to drink, and they wait for me. And we were up to north of Israel. We were to the Dead Sea, and we were to those historical places, biblic places, and I tried to could heal a person in Jerusalem, and we were going away from Jerusalem and had a hotel up in Haifa in the north, and I was thinking, I can never get anyone to be that I can heal. I want to heal in Jerusalem as Jesus was healing in Jerusalem. And just on that city limit, out from Jerusalem, we stopped. So it was only some steps left to go out from Jerusalem. And I was tired to go into those church buildings, so I didn't go in a church building. And I was a little sad that I had not could do any healing in Jerusalem. So I sit and wait for the group to come back from the church building. And a man come and sit down at my side, and we start to talk a little, and then he say that he had a very serious illness, like cancer style and something. I don't remember really what it was, but it was serious condition he had. That's why he also wanted to sit with me. And I say that I can help you. So I lay my hand on him, and he say that he was healed. And I'd be so happy. It was so perfect. It's amazing that it was just when I gave up, then it happened. So it's not to give up. It can happen. I was not out from Jerusalem city limit when it happened. And then when we come to Capernaum, where Jesus was also healing people, and I was so sick. We should. The other people in the group, they lay in a tent. But I was so sick in my body, so they let me sleep in a house, in a small house with a real bed. And I had a woman with me that also had a bed to sleep in. And before she fall to sleep, she said that she had so very much pain and she was so sick, and she thought that she should not could walk with us next day. And so I say to her that I can lay a hand on you and heal you. I say to her, and she let me because she was so much pain and weak. And the next morning we were coming together, gathering in Capernaum, in where those the rest of church, where Jesus was walking around there in that buildings that was not there anymore, but it had been when Jesus was there. And then the pastor said that you have said that to that woman, that we maybe have be forced to take you back to Jerusalem and let you stay there because you can't go with us. And the woman said, no, it's no problem anymore. I was healed in Capernaum. Jesus healed me in Capernaum, she said. She didn't say that I lay hand on her. But everyone was so thankful for Jesus to have healed that woman. And she was like a new person. And she walked with us the rest of the days. And so I find out that pastor they had, he was very famous. He was on television, and everyone every time in interviews about the church he was there. I didn't know when I looked for a group of people to travel to Israel that it should be he that should be the leader for the group. And I tried to talk to him about that God come home to me and make me not make a suicide and instead follow him. And I was in the United States, and I told a little, and he only laughed at me, and he said, that's not true, it's a lie. And he said very bad things about me. And then when we go to the Dead Sea, we stop at the shop, and it was like Arabic shop, and it was souvenirs for people to buy that had with the Dead Sea to do. And I say to the pastor that was laughing about me, I say, I will see, I don't have any towel with me. I didn't know that we should go and bath in Dead Sea, so I need to have a towel with me. I will see if they have a towel to to sell here in the store. And he laughed at me and he said, you can ask your God. Your God. They always say that, those crazy leaders that doesn't understand that you should not laugh about people when they say, it's like I did, you should not laugh about. It's a blasphemy to do this. And he laughed at me, and I go to the counter to that man and in the store, and I ask him if they have a towel to buy, and he have a towel under the cashier, and he took a white towel and sell it to me. And it was not a towel I could see. There was nothing in the store, but he had it under the desk and the counter. And so I go and show the pastor. They had a towel here in the store. So God gave me a towel. And he be very surprised when I show him. You say that there was no, but God knew they had a towel for me. And but what I come to know, because God wanted me to travel in 2011, it was because when we come back from Israel, I heard on the news that this pastor, he had converted to the Catholic Church. So he is a pastor now in Catholic Church. So it was his last time he traveled to Israel as a pastor for a Pentecostal church. And that's why God told me to travel to Israel, because he knew, of course, God knew that I should travel with this pastor and that I should test him how he was when I told him that God come home to me in year 2000. And so I feel sorry for the pastor that he was so ignorant and laughing at me and make a joke about me. And he don't let those people in the church talk to me, be with me. And so it was like I was traveled by myself. And then it was a woman that was stealing money from me. And she did say that she didn't have any money, and we were thirsty and should buy something to drink. And I said, you can get money from me. And I didn't have small money, so she got a big bill from me, and she never paid back until one morning I said to her in front of all the people, where is the money that you should pay me back? And then she be scared, so she gave me back the money. I didn't really need the money because I had lots of money in Israel, but I think it's wrong to steal. So I have to tell her, and she also steal when we were in the bus, and we went away from the bus, and then when I come into the bus, my water I had bought, the bottle of water was gone, and then I have some like this wet small towels to clean you up with. It was gone, and I asked the driver if he had seen this. This was something that the driver didn't need to steal it. It was no expensive things. So I thought he should find it, and we looked around and we didn't find it. But the last day, when we traveled with the same bus, then suddenly I find those things, my things, in the seat. It was laying there. So it was something that she took away only for a time, and like power, control. She gave me back when I don't need it anymore, because it was the last day. So that's it was 2011 was that I should go visit Israel, because I should meet this Pentecostal pastor that converted to Catholic Church, to test him, and then also to find out that they speak very good English in Israel, so I didn't need to know Hebrew. And then those two other times I was in Israel, it was for something. It was not that go to Israel and then be there. It was work I had to do for God, in God's will. So the second time was 2013, and I was only in Tel Aviv. I was not around Israel. I had already been there first time. I had been to all kind of places in Israel, so I didn't need that. And the second time, God said that to me to travel to Israel. Then I was thinking I should find the Kabbalah, the belief of Kabbalah. There is a center in Tel Aviv, Kabbalah Center, but I never find it. And on my way to find where it was, I come to their synagogue, to the big old synagogue. There, I think it's closed now. But I walk in there, and I didn't know. It was a guard outside, and I asked him if I could come in, but I didn't have anything to put on my head. I said to him, "Can I go anyway into the synagogue?" And he said it was okay. So I went into the synagogue, and I didn't know how it looked like. And it come a woman and met me, and I say I don't have anything on my head now. But she say it's okay, you can come in anyway, she say. And she took me to the rabbi, and the rabbi welcomed me, and he said that I'm on my way to do a prayer now, so I want you to come with me, and we can pray together, he said to me. And it's the chief commander of all the rabbis in Israel. He was the highest rabbi in Israel, so he was really the man I should test. And and we sit in the. It's like a square. It's like a area in the synagogue where the rabbis is sitting, all the men is sitting. And I'd be surprised because he took me into that area. And we sit down and he prayer in Hebrew and then in English. And then when I come back to Sweden, I look who was this rabbi I met. And then I saw that he was the chief manager, the boss, highest for all rabbis in Israel. But then 2-3 months later, he was kicked out from that church, from the synagogue, because it was something with money to do. He had stolen money or something. And I don't know if it was something that God saw him do and why I should meet him. And just after he left everything. It was to meet him, and then was it also that I come in February 2013, and there was the Purim feast that I should see, that God wanted me to see. I didn't know that. I think it was funny with all this masquerade people that boys that look like girls like that, and it was not disturbing because I knew it was a feast in the whole Tel Aviv. And today I know that Tel Aviv is not really a holy place. It's where the economy is, and they want it to be the capital. They don't want to have nothing with Jerusalem to do. It's where the homosexual people live in Israel, and it's not a nice city. But I didn't know in 2013 it was like that. But then I realized it because I was walking around in that time, and then I come to a big square where it was Orthodox Jewish people, and they have a party there, and they had vodka bottles in their hand, and they were drinking, and they were so drunk, and they were dancing on the table and screaming, and they were such a crazy. And I was thinking, those Orthodox Jewish, I didn't know that they were drinking so much. They were crazy drunk. It was not one glass, it was real vodka bottles. And I didn't know that in Purim is it like that for those Orthodox Jewish, that it's one day at a year when they can go wild, drinking and these things, only to see how it is to be in the world, to get a hint of what's going on in the world. I think it's very crazy. I'm sorry. but for me it's weird to find it out, because it can easily be that one day can be many days. It can be a very uh, devastating, bad life for these people. You should never drink. Like some people drink beer and wine, but I don't drink anything. And I should not do it today, even if I didn't have psoriasis and a bad body. I should not do it. I was talking about bad body. It was in 2011 when we were walking, a pilgrim's walk. Those 2 last days we were walking around. It was so fun because the leaders of the group, they ask, where is Eva? Where is she? They ask around, and I say, I'm standing here with you. I say to the leaders, and they be so surprised because I was one of the first to come to the goal. I was so fast the 2 last days, because I was healed and got my strength back, and they be surprised. But when I come back home, I get it back, my pain and illness. I was only healed that time in Israel, but then 2015 I got the medicine that I have today that make the psoriasis go away from me, and I am better now, and no pain. I have no pain at all, and I have no painkiller. It's the medicine I get for Stellara, if you know that medicine I have. So that's 2013. It was to meet this rabbi, and then also to see how awful this Purim feast is, and God saw it also together with me. So I learned how much fake it is. They are not so religious as it look like. Some maybe are, but very many are cheating. They don't do this Sabbath. And and then 2016 that I have talking about, that God told me to visit this man, Israel leads Samarian leader in Holon, in Israel, in it's outside Jerusalem, and it's the people. And when I was in Jerusalem, I got also from God that I should go visit a museum, and in the museum I heard God telling me that I should do a DNA test, and that's what's going on just now with this DNA test. Now in February 2022 I wait for my second DNA test to come through, and it is an empty DNA test. That means that they only target my mother side of the DNA to see, because I have always I have been thinking that my mother doesn't look Swedish. She was with black hair and green brown eyes, and she laughed and joke about her nose was so big, and she said it's from the France people. She said and laugh about her nose, and she didn't like it. So she didn't look Swedish. And then when I got the DNA result in the end of 2016, it maybe was in 2017, January, February, like that. And then I saw 25% Jewish DNA do I have. And that is more than 25, because to live in Sweden for 200 years ago, they had to convert to Lutheran church. You couldn't live as Jewish in Sweden for 200 years ago. So those Jewish people have been Swedish, and they changed their names also, and they come into this name system we have in Sweden in the past. We don't have it today, that the child, if the father's name is Jacob, for example, then the kids of that father that have the name Jacob, their surname, their last name will be Jakobsson, or if it's from Denmark, Jakobsen. And now it's a spirit answer me when I talk about the surname. It's something very strong come here. That's it means this is Jacob's son, or if he have Abraham as his first name, the children will have the surname, the last name Abrahamson, Abraham son, the son of Abraham. So it changed to be Swedish. So those Jewish surname last name in many cases doesn't exist anymore. So you can't tell of their names that they are Jewish. So the 25% is much more than 25%. So this is what I try to find out with my DNA, and then also because my mother's line is very strong in Jewish, and I'd be so surprised that my father was also Jewish. I didn't know that. But my mother is very strong, and her DNA reached into the English royals and Denmark. Our king is related to the Danish royals, and all royals are related to each other. So my mother's line is very much Jewish and much royals. So it's so historical. So it's in the books. If you are coming from farmers, a normal, ordinary farmer, for example, they are not written up. It was They started to write in church books when someone was born, and it started 1650. They started, but before that, it's not known. These people, if they were not historical value on them, like royals or nobles or someone that have traveled far away and investigate and invest things, then you know their names. But those other people you don't know. And I hope this spirit is very fast in what this. It's a man coming, and he's really tall. He showed me. But I don't see his face like that. He only is the size, the form of him, that I know it's a man. And he's 300 years back, so it's from very old time. That's why he react on me saying this with that the Jewish people couldn't live in Sweden. He was before they come to Sweden and lived, before they had to convert. But I didn't do it. He said that I didn't convert to come. He said that he travel in and out in Sweden. He never stay here in Sweden. He did his job to deliver his work, but he was in his own country, like Germany, and did his work, and then he delivered only the work to royals, and then he married into the royal family, he say, and he say that he what he's saying now is that he say that it's coming back, those rules, those limits to people. It will come limits of your freedom, he say. It's going back to the same as it was in my time, when we couldn't live in Sweden, but it can be other countries also. But he said that it's gonna be like that you have to convert to could live in the country, and he make me think about Muslims, that it's be like converted Muslims into the Swedish church system, to be Christian, even if they come as Muslim, but they can't stay. That's what he says. It's groups. It's groups that want it to be like that in Sweden. There is this. They think they are good in that way, that they accept Muslims into Sweden if they convert to be Christian. That's what's what's going to happen. We have an election in Sweden this year, so it is realistic what he's saying, that is going to be the same thing, because those Nazist group, they don't say they are Nazis, but the ground, the basic basement where they're coming from was Nazist people, and they are still Nazi people, and that's he's a spirit. He can spy on them if he want, and he have, and he know that these people can accept a Muslim person if it's convert to Christianity. And they are not stupid Muslims, so they can say they convert and stay in Sweden and be Muslim, but they have to hide that they do Muslim things. So it's very sad, but that was what target him to come through here. It was not about the names really. It was about the converting that I talk about, that make him come here. So it was short. That's good, because I'm out of time. But I always make time for the spirit to come and talk. But he was short this time. So thank you for listening. And I hope you listen more. And these long episodes, it can be a value for you to listen at them. So I hope you do it. And not only the short episodes I have done. Thank you, and God bless you. God love you, and I love you too.